Hi, everybody. It's Liz Kitchell with Shimula and Don Parks with Shimula. We are so happy to have you here today. And yeah, we're going to be talking
Yeah.
about some shooting for the stars today. Don, do you want to say good morning?
Good morning, everybody. I I was going to say how cold it was this weekend, and I noticed that whenever start these conversations, I'm always talking about the weather. And I thought, I wonder why I'm always talking about the weather. And I realized that the weather really sets a mood for people in terms of what they want to do in the world that day, right? If it's a gloomy, rainy day, some people get really inspired, and if it's a cold, nasty day, other people are not so inspired. So it's a beautiful, cold, sunny day today, which actually is a very inspiring kind of day for me. How about you, Liz?
Those are the kinds of days that are inspiring to declutter or to deep clean for me around the house, not always necessarily with regards to work.
Got it. Got it. Well, so we want to welcome everybody back to our Great Resignation series. We this week we're going to go at it for another week, at least a couple of more weeks. We have people that are actually calling and saying, "Hey, how do we get on and share our ideas around what's important around the Great Resignation based on their skills and experience." So we're going to keep doing this, and I think we're going to turn it into a podcast. Hey, Pumpkin, how are you?
I know the magical cat is here. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. So, Liz, do you want to share a little bit about this shooting for the stars concept, right? It's perfect for the Great Resignation. And I'm going to turn my head a moment and fix something on the screen to see if I can get both of us to show up in the Facebook Live while you're talking. Okay.
Okay. And the other thing, Dawn, I just want to give you a heads up. We normally record these, and I was not able to hit record. So, because I'm not set up as a host. So if you'd like to do that would be great.
Great.
So here we are talking about shooting for the stars. When we sit here and think about some of the ideas that we have, a lot of people underestimate what they can get done in 5 years from now, but they overestimate what they can get done in 1 year from now. So what happens is, because they overestimate what they can get done with 1 year, they oftentimes shoot really small with regards to the accomplishments and things that they want to do, especially with their businesses and anything else that's really important to them that they don't always prioritize right away. Mm-hmm. They underestimate what they can get done in 5 years. You can really make a huge difference in your life in 5 years, in your business, and in a lot of different things. And I think it was Elon Musk that, has been quoted a lot lately that says, you really want to make a big difference. What you think should take a year or 2 years, calendar it for 6 months, right? You can get a lot more done than you really think. So when we're looking at that, we're saying, when you look out 5 years from now, what is that world-changing thing that you can shoot for? So you've got the stars that people normally shoot for, those big, audacious goals. Mm-hmm. You'll see that those are the stars. Well, we want you to go one step further and take a look at the sun. Take a look at a world-changing view with regards to the sun. A lot of people go, what's predictable? Let's add 3% to that, and we get to our stretch. Maybe 10, 15, or 20% on top of the predictable. But we really want you to go for audacious or world-changing. And when we work with people, we really define what it is that you want to do and why is that so important. The why is extremely important to make sure that the world-changing is not only for the world, but it's also for your world and the people involved in it. So, Dawn, you got something to add with regards to shooting for the sun and the world-changing impact?
I think the only thing that I would just expand it a little bit and say, we talk about it oftentimes like climbing Mount Everest, mm-hmm. right? Like if you've got Mount Everest in your sights, you'll hear us say this a lot, but it isn't always about Mount Everest, right? You may have Mount Everest out there, but first it might be, can I walk 5 miles without losing my breath or having my feet hurt? So you want to be able to keep Mount Everest in your sights, but then you make a plan based on based on what do you want to get accomplished, like you said, with Elon Musk in 6 months or a year. So it's this back and forth between where is the dream? Because when your feet hurt after your first 5-mile walk, it's easy to hang up your shoes, and you have to remember what you're committed to. And so we really work hard with people in our programs to make sure that they have that really clear pathway, so that they know
so true
on their way, right? Because you have to start with baby steps.
Mm-hmm. And there's this visual that has been going around lately on Facebook, and I love it. And it talks about the ladder, and if your steps are too big, you can barely reach that first rung. But if their steps are just right and your baby steps to Mount Everest, then you can make consistent progress. But then it speeds up quickly once you're making consistent progress with baby steps.
Right.
And then momentum, you start getting bigger. Mm-hmm.
Momentum, practice, habits, which reminds me that this coming Friday, Andrea Bednar is going to be back again. And she is going to be talking to us about the importance of practices and habits, and why it's important to take small steps first, not to all of a sudden say, all right, in 3 weeks, I'm going to run a marathon. It's what do you do tomorrow to get ready for a marathon? And it's like compound interest, right? If you take something and you just keep adding a little bit at a time to make sure that you keep the momentum and you don't lose the mood or the excitement for it, right? You can start to see some progress with smaller steps. Or get on that first step of the rung first, right? You start to gain more confidence the higher you go or the longer you do something. Because confidence is really a big part of it, which you have to, if you're thinking about leaving your corporate job, whether you're going to retire, which is a lot of people are doing now as they're retiring, whether you're going to retire or whether you're going to try to do your own gig, or you're going to go find another job that allows for whatever is missing in your life, right? You want to, I just lost my train of thought. So whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you have a plan and that you are not doing it necessarily from a gut reaction, right? You don't just throw Mount Everest out there on a whim, unless you really want to do it, because people will start to relate to you as someone who wants to climb Mount Everest, but that you're never taking any action. You're all talk, right? So they'll start to, you'll want to share with them the smaller first steps, right? I want to be able to walk 5 miles without my feet hurting in a month, right? So that people around you can support you and that you can stay focused on your goals. But we know that we know that sometimes people want to make a big jump fast. I'm a jumper. Mm-hmm. Okay. I get to where, okay, I'm done. I'm just done. I got to get out of here. It's been 10 years. I'll figure something out, because I'm like a cat. I always land on my feet, right? It always works out for me, but not everyone has that ability. But some people might want to take action without interrupting a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to share this next slide. Okay, Liz?
Yeah. And while you're doing that, it's so important. A lot of times when we make a declaration and we say we're going to do this, chaos shows up in our life, and that chaos, because the world isn't always organized for what we're creating. And that's why it's really important that Dawn and I always talk about, where are you heading? What's the roadmap? And that way there's clarity to make sure we're in the direction you're heading. So the chaos doesn't blow your life up. It's more of those incremental baby steps. So, okay, let's talk about doing versus being, Dawn.
Right.
I love this scenario that you talk about.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to be like ready for action, but they're not sure what action to take right now. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we talk about the action, I want to remind you, and Liz mentioned it earlier, mentioned Elon Musk a moment ago, but it's really important to think about what you're going to be doing next. Like, what is your Mount Everest? What is your dream? What is your impact? And whatever it is that you want to do is really important. And we're like, yay, you go for it, whatever it might be. But I'm always reminded of, when you go into the grocery store or you go to the pharmacy and it's time to get a shampoo, there's this mass of shampoos that are already out there. They all have, if you notice, they have different colors. Some are for I have kind of curly, thin, fine hair that's got some coloring in it. And I do a lot of chlorine. Liz, you have so much big, fluffy, gorgeous hair, right? And it's more coarse, and babies and men, and dandruff, and with scents and without scents as in the smell, right? Different colors. There's a whole lot of them to choose from. And quite often we want to be unique. We want to be Elon Musk. We want to go out and create the vehicle that's going to take us to Mars. We want to create the car, the first electric car like he had created, but not everybody can be that unique and special. You as a human are unique and special, but your idea has to kind of work within the marketplace that already exists, right? But Liz, tell us a little bit about how you feel when you think of yourself trying to find your spot on the shelf.
It's so funny, Dawn, when I first left the corporate world to go and do, my calling. And I was like, oh my gosh, there are people out there that are money coaches that talk about the linear side. And there's money coaches that talk about the experiential side. There's nobody doing both, right? So I'm going to be unique and I'm going to be different. So, here I am and I start talking about it. And then what happens is I start to see all these other people that are, doing combined courses and coaching with regards to the linear and the experiential side of money, what some people call the masculine and the feminine side of money, which is more of characteristics, not necessarily genders, right? So the interesting thing is like, as I was doing this, people would say, oh, go read this book. And they would give me the name of a book or somebody that was already doing that, or go read this book. And I refused to read the books because I wanted to be uniquely different and all the ideas being mine, right? And then I was realizing it was really just validation, one, that there was a need for this and that there really is room for all of us. See all those different shampoos out there? I could have been the blue one right there in the center. I didn't have to necessarily start my own aisle at the grocery store and something uniquely different. That's never been marketed or researched as in this is the thing that needs to exist. So as I was going through this process and I was realizing other people did this, and I started to get a little bit more comfortable that it was validation, that it was needed, and that I was on the right path, then I started to say, okay, great. I can go ahead and use some of their marketing. I can use some of their research, and then I can figure out the thing that makes you different is actually me as the personality I bring to the table. So that's kind of some of the things I went through initially because I did want to be, uniquely different, Dawn, when I first started.
Right. When people are at the pharmacy or in the store, if they're looking for shampoo, they want to find shampoo in the shampoo aisle. Mm-hmm. They don't want to find it in the dog food aisle or the baby food aisle or its own aisle, right? They don't know how to, they don't even know how to, in the world of the internet, they wouldn't even know how to Google it, right? You wouldn't know how to find it. So you want to be related to the existing market. I mean, unless you already have something that's proven that you're just waiting for. But most of the time, you're right, Liz, you want to find your way to fit on the shelf and then do the marketing that shows how you're different. At the end of the day, if you, all of those things, they're made up of two things at their base, right? There is a soap, some sort of cleanser, and a surfactant. So the soap goes on, and then the surfactant is the thing that wraps around the dirt and the soap and pulls it off. Then you add everything else. So at the base,
right?
Yeah, at the base, they're all the same. So what you want to start to think about is, what is your base? Are you a coach? Are you a consultant? Are you a designer? Are you an interior consultant, like an interior decorator? Are you an architect? What is the thing? What is your base? And then we suggest some action that you could take that might help you think through the process before making a big jump. I know for me, Liz, when I first started thinking about these things, and I liked the idea of going out and looking at what other people were doing, but then for me, I got overwhelmed. I thought, oh, there's already so many. How do I fit in? How do I fit onto the shelf, right? It's that kind of doubt conversation that I carry around. If you guys watched last week, we were talking about doubt. So I didn't know that I sometimes think that I doubt things sometimes. And, how do I fit in? Well, the best way to fit in is to not reinvent the wheel. It's about being curious. So some people like to live in the doing world, action, 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 action. And some people are more in the being world, right? Which is contemplation and thinking about who am I going to be? I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a CEO. I'm going to be a company owner without the action that's associated. Today, we're really going to brainstorm actually some actions, right? So I'm going to take us off of this slide for a moment, Liz, and take us back to normal where people can see the two of us together. But, you want to start to think about what are some actions that you could take now over the holiday season, because a lot of times people are going to want to make a big jump or a change come January after you've managed to get through the season. And one of the things we were thinking about is who else is in your market?
Right.
Right. When Liz and I were starting out, we looked at, we are not the first ones to be money coaches. We're not. If you thought we were, great, but we are not the first to be money coaches. I think the first money coaches were like our dads, right?
Yeah.
Or the church who said you should put 10% into the basket as it goes by, or whatever, whoever coached
my
you.
mom was my money coach.
Oh, was she your money coach?
Mm-hmm. And my grandmother.
Oh, very cool. Came down from the women's side. I like it.
Did.
But when we started to look, there's Susie Orman, who really made great strides for women and money. And her way of being, her operating style is more like a father. She has that more masculine, organized, logical, linear way of approaching money. Dave Ramsey, he has a more logical, linear way, and he adds the Christianity conversation to it. There are other people like Jen Cisnero, who I love, who is, you are a badass at making money. And she kind of tells it like it is in a way that was funny and relatable. So when we started to first look at what are people already saying? How do they market the conversation? How do they talk about being financial gurus and money coaches? They have spent millions of dollars testing the language. So whatever that thing is that you are considering as your next step, go out and look and see what's the language that works. What's the language that you think is going to attract the kind of person that you want to be working with if you're going to be starting a new company, or if you're going to go work for another company that has more freedom and flexibility. So that's one of the things that we were brainstorming. You could start to make a list of who else is on the shelf there. A friend of mine, Marcus Bell, uses the term competitive. So they're competitors, but they're also kind of mates, right? So competitive. Who would be your potential competitive mates? So that's one of the lists that we were thinking about that you could start with. Liz, is there a list that you might have in mind of things that people might be able to start with, or do you want to expand on my idea of getting the marketing information from people?
I think it's really important to get out there and get ideas of like who's already doing it. And I think there's two folds with regards to it. They already done the research, they've done the marketing. So take a look at their language. But the other aspect of it, that's some of the things that you can do. The things that are important on the being side is not just the curiosity, but also the values of like what's important to you. Because in the process of rolling out this new company or going to a new firm or some of these other things, the values is part of the being. Mm. So the values of what kind of firm do you want to work for? Or if you're going to launch your business, what are the values in the business aspects that you're going to be able to bring forward? And the reason I bring this up is when I was researching other money coaches, the part that's really important to me is there's a lot of the linear conversation out there, but really, what are the values of who you are as a person, and how does the money represent that? And how can you use that in a way to live your life? I know lots of people with millions of dollars that were just unhappy, right?
Mm.
So like, how do you create values in the process of expression in figuring that all out? So there's the logical linear side of things, and then there's that kind of experiential, or the being and the doing side. And you can actually brainstorm both of those right now. Start looking at who's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with their values? And if not, why? And what would you do slightly different? And now you're starting to go in and shimmy into what excites you and what you're going to be doing next.
I think that's really important. It's not just about list making. For those of you who are like me, where I start with the list, my way of being in that process is curious, right? I start to make all the lists. And then there will be different kinds of being that will show up. Maybe it'll be excitement. It could be overwhelm. It could be frustration. It could be joy and happiness, passion, right? And you want to notice the emotion that's there, right? Because that's who you're being, right? That when that emotion is there, all the actions you're taking are related to that. Around that topic. And I think it's really good to notice that. So if you notice you're getting overwhelmed, right, or frustrated, you might want to take a breath and figure out how to get curious again before you start taking more action. Because it really is, you're right, Liz, it's about back and forth. And if you have somebody to brainstorm ideas with, Liz and I, we are always brainstorming new ideas and how to get things done. And we each bring a combination of that. Who are you being, and what are you doing to the conversation? I know a lot of times I sound like I'm the doer and she's the beer, but we both bring both of it. And it's important to think about that when you're looking at your potential competition and where you want to go. Because and to have another human being that you trust, that you can trust with your ideas, that you can share your frustrations with, that can help you see where you're blinded by something, right? Or when you've stopped and you don't know how to move forward. Who can that be, right?
Yeah. And we're open, if you're feeling called to reach out to one of us, do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better than to discuss your ideas with somebody who is just going to listen and be curious and ask you the right questions. I think it's Mary Morrissey that says that your ideas are brought to fruition twice, once in your imagination and once in reality, right? And it truly is a combination of both. And we love to help people get clarity, build the roadmap, and then take the action steps to get there. So figure out who you need to be that person, and the roadmap where you're going, and then the action steps to get there. And then the fun part is just playing around with what's enough and what does that look like. And, because we don't always know until we get in there, we start playing with it.
Right. I put into the chat on Facebook the link to our calendar. We offer 30-minute consultations, 45-minute consultations, where if you want to just brainstorm something with us, we are happy to provide that kind of guidance and insight, be that non-judgmental, unbiased ear to kind of sort through some things. And quite often you have to do that before you decide you're going to take on a coach or take on a program, invest your money in yourself. One of the things that we do find is that if you've never been a business owner, it's good to have a coach and a community where you can bounce your ideas, so that, because your family is not organized for you to do this. The world isn't organized for you to do this, right? It's kind of like if you decide you're going to go on a diet and then there's 10 dinner parties in a row and they all have sweets and treats and alcohol. And you're like, oh, where's my resolve? You need to be around people who understand what you're committed to and what you're trying to accomplish, which is the thing that, Liz and I provide as part of Shimula. But you got to get started. You got to have a phone call. Talk to us. We would love to hear what you're up to. We are in support of all women reinventing their relationship to money and how they live a life that they really love, right?
And whether it be, you need to figure out how to make it all work so you can create and launch the business you've been looking to launch, or, we know a lot of people right now taking those early retirement packages that are looking for what's next. There's a lot of corporations. I know not my last, but my employer before that, I think 12% of the company took an early retirement. That's huge. And they're not even, some of them are not even 50.
Right.
Right.
And then what do? You got at least 30 more years to hang out. You're going to sit on
if not 50, right? In my family, all the women lived to be 100. So, right. I used to joke around a lot of things about that, but I'm not going to say it live today. But it's one of those things where just because you're retiring doesn't mean that you don't stop having purpose. So what's next? How do you find that again? You cannot look at your spouse as if, okay, I'm retiring. Now what? Let's go do something. You're now the source of my happiness. Number one reason why marriages fall apart in retirement is that you look at the other person to be your North Star. It can't be, right? So there is something in there that you've always had a wish or a desire to do, and you just may need to play around and shimmy with that and realize it's not too late to actually do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think we want to take the last couple of minutes, Liz. We still have this really near and dear to our heart program that we wanted to offer to veterans through the end of the month. We have a program called Crack Your Money Code. It's also known as Your Money Master Plan, which is an online do-it-yourself video series with a workbook. It's normally a $449 program, and we are offering it for free to any veteran, male, female, active duty, retired, discharged, whatever your status is. We would really be honored to be able to provide that course free of charge. It really helps you think about what do you want to get done in the next year, in the next 5 years. It talks about how much is enough, and it gets you on your yellow brick road. And it talks a lot about mindset as well, because the work that you have to do, it's, as we've mentioned, it's a combination of doing and being, which is your mindset, and being able to make shifts when your brain is protecting you from trying something new, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to try to protect you from something new. And we would love to be able to provide that. You can contact us at shimula@gmail.com. You can do it. You can contact us through our website. You can contact us through our calendar. Or if you are part of an organization that serves veterans, we would love to be in touch with them as well and see what we can do to provide that service to folks. It's just such an honor to be able to give back. Liz, is there anything else you want to say about that?
I just want to say thank you to all those who have served and are serving.
Right. This is something you could be doing while you're stationed in another country.
Yeah.
If you have access to the internet and you want to be thinking about where do you want to head? Do you want to stay in the military for a career you're not sure? If you want to come out and get a job when your time is up, or if you want to start a company, now's the time when you have time to be planning, right? As opposed to, oh my gosh, tomorrow's the day. Now what am I going to do? And having the plan in place will make all the difference in the world. So let us know if you have an interest, or you know someone, or you're connected to an organization where we can share this with people. And tomorrow we'll be back, same time, same station. And we have really appreciated all the people that have been viewing this live and have been viewing the replay. So Liz, anything else you want to say to sign off for the day?
Have an amazing day. And remember to shoot for the sun.
Right. Not the stars. Go beyond. Let's
go beyond.
That's right.
World changing.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.